I'm Darren Fink, and I am with Transfiguring Adoption. Transfiguring Adoption exists to create media to help nurture growth in foster adoptive families. And a little while ago, I had happened to be on Twitter, and I saw a tweet that pushed me to this website called Adoption at the Movies. And it is run and birthed from Addison Cooper, who is an LCSW, and he agreed to give us some of his time and talk to us about this, because I really think that if you're a foster adoptive parent, you're going to want to get on this site and check it out, because it's going to be a neat tool that's going to help you communicate and connect with your kids and with just bond in general as a family. So glad to have you, Cooper.
Hey, thanks, Darren. It's good to be here. Thank you for inviting me and saying all that nice stuff about adoption at the movies. I'm glad you found it.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to go ahead. Hey, can you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself? Where I saw on your website that you'd lived in Missouri for a while, that you're in California now with your wife. Just go ahead and tell us a little bit about who you are.
Sure. Well, my name's Addison Cooper. I've been a social worker for about 10 or 11 years, and the last 10 of them I've been in the foster care and adoption world. Got into social work kind of randomly. I went to college thinking that I would be an English teacher, so I could come up to the kids after class and be helpful in that way. And when I was interviewing for ministry on campus, the person who was interviewing me was a social work student. I didn't even know what social work was. I asked her what it was. She says it's helping people. And so just riffing off of that, I decided to change my major. Came out to California for my wife's grad school program. I initially was working in a group home for teens with some mental health issues and some drug addiction issues. And pretty quickly after that, I felt like switching fields and ended up in foster care adoption, and it's fit really well. Right now, I'm a clinical supervisor at a foster care and adoption agency in Southern California. And then about 3 years ago, I started adoption movies as well. It's kind of on the side as a way to watch movies and feel like I was still being productive.
Nice. So tell me, before we get into adoption at the movies, tell me a little bit more about what's it like being an LCSW? What does that look like on a daily basis?
Sure. I mean, there's a pretty big range of what social workers can do, what social workers do with their licenses. With an LCSW, you might work in a. Oh, you okay? You might work in a. You might work in a hospital. Work at a therapy clinic. I work in a prison. For me, in a typical day, I had a year where I worked as a therapist and just saw therapy clients, some kids, some teens, some adults, and I really loved doing that. And then the bulk of my work has been in foster care and adoption, so that might be visiting foster homes and making sure that the kids are doing all right and that the parents have the resources they need. It might be writing home studies. I wrote like 120 of those. Got my typing speed up really quick, and really got to know a lot of people's stories, and that was great. And then right now I'm doing clinical supervision for social workers who are doing what I used to do, who want to get their licenses so that they can branch out and do more. Yes.
Right. So is there a reason? Is there any reason why you started working with the foster care community or the adoption community?
It's really strange. I mean, the same way that I kind of ended up in social work, sort of without really intending to. I had the same experience getting into foster care and adoption. After being in the group home for a year, I really wanted to work someplace that had some sort of a way to integrate my work with my faith more intentionally. And so I looked at some faith-based agencies in California, and it just happened that the one that felt like the best fit, which actually isn't a faith-based agency, as it turns turns out. It has some faith-based roots, and the people are really great. But it happened to be a foster care adoption agency, so I came into it pretty green, and you know, I really found it meaningful to be doing the work in the field, but I didn't actually set out to work in foster care adoption. I just sort of landed here and really fell in love with the field.
That's amazing. It seems like I know even with my wife and I think we a lot of times fall into something, or something just kind of falls into our lap, and we're kind of like, hey, I kind of like this. This is kind of giving me some meaning. So what's one big hurdle that as you're working with foster kids, what's a big hurdle that you're seeing, or we're going to have a lot of foster parents watching this and wanting to get to know things. What are some issues or some things that you're seeing in foster care right now? Maybe that it's trending, or I don't know, just speak to that. What are some issues for foster care right now?
Well, so at least in California, we've had a decline in the number of kids in foster care. That might be nationally. So that's actually a good thing, but we're also having a decline in the number of families that are available and that are willing to become foster parents. And for the families that do come into foster care, you know, certainly one of the main goals, the primary goal is for a kid to reunify. And if failing that, we want to have them in a permanent home, whether that's with a relative or whether that's with your foster family. And so we do have a lot of families that come wanting to adopt, but sometimes the focus is on young kids, and so there's a huge need for families that are open to taking placement and being a permanent home for older kids. And in foster care, older kids is as young as like 7 or 8. So I think if I could say one thing that would be great would be if there's families that would be open to taking a 7-year-old or a teenager, or even a sibling set. That's where the hugest needs are. Kids other than single.
Right. No, that is, I'd agree with that. I think definitely we see that too over in Tennessee, even that it's just harder. People don't want to take the older kids, and I think there's a stigma. Maybe correct me if I'm wrong, or if you see something different, but I think there's a stigma that the older kids have more behaviors, they're more damaged, they have just different things going on that people believe that infants and smaller children aren't going to be damaged, or I guess damaged is maybe the wrong word, but they're not going to have that traumatic baggage coming with them. Where we've seen actually, even our youngest little guy came to us when he was 1 year old, and he still has trauma. And it's actually almost kind of worse because he can't name the trauma. He doesn't know where the trauma came from. He just, in his brain somewhere, just kind of vaguely just knows something happened. Where our older kids can say, yeah, this happened to me, that's why I'm scared. So,
I think you're hitting the nail on the head. A lot of times families, or, you know, applicants, prospective foster or adoptive parents, say, like, you know, I want to take a really young kid because I want to be able to influence them and have an impact on them. And, you know, and they're scared that if they're taking a teenager or a 10-year-old, that kid already has, you know, that kid already has all their behavioral groundwork in place and they're going to be that way forever. And I understand the fear behind that because, you know, babies have some personality, but not as much as a 10-year-old, you know? And it's easy to look at that 10-year-old and the way they're acting out and think that's who they are and who they're going to be. But, man, the influence that adults can have on kids is great. And, I mean, even think about myself, think about yourself. I mean, the person that I was at 13 or 14, there's elements of that in who I am today. But I'm not exactly the same as I was at 14, 15.
Thank God.
There's people that I've met, even in my 20s, probably even in my 30s, people that even in that short time have already impacted the way I think and the way that I live. You know, I mean, there's such a thing as adult adoption. It's a real thing. I'm not But I mean, there's no point at which you stop learning, at which you stop being influenced. You know, I mean, I think differently about the world today than I did when I was 25 even. And the things that a 10-year-old is already locked in place is probably misguided. Even though it's an understandable fear. So, yeah, I think you're right. I think folks think that, you know, the teenagers, the older kids are not going to be malleable. You know, that they're not going to be able to change. But they are. And I think, you know, there's an advantage to older teens, too. And, you know, I mean, their personalities are formed. You can actually have, like, conversations, share some interests instead of maybe when you're ready to do, you know. I mean,
Right.
I mean, for babies, too, but, you know, we just have some purpose, some pluses.
Well, and we actually, a couple of weeks ago, I just brought up the idea that we were talking with a gentleman that he'd been through foster care, and I forget how old he was. I want to say he was 10 years old when he finally came to his final foster home with I think there were 6 foster boys in the home. And he told me, you know, he said, we took advantage of everything. We burned the house down, actually, literally. They burned, well, I don't think it was intentional. I don't know if it's necessarily him, but they burned the foster dad's house down. But he said, you know, I said, well, what do you tell? Because we're talking with another foster parent, and they've lost hope. They don't have any hope. They even said at one point, I don't even know if I like my kid anymore. And I said, what do you tell them? And he said, well, you know, he said, you got to remember that you didn't get into foster care for the moment. You didn't get in for it because of the present behaviors. You didn't get into it because of what your kid's present. You got into it for the long haul so that you could see the future change and you could see that kid have a positive future, not the moment. So he's like, don't look at the moment. You've got to look toward the future. What would you tell a foster parent that is, I guess, just down on their luck? They don't even know if they like their kid anymore. Their kid's talking back to them. Maybe their teenager stole the car, and they just don't even know if they would like this anymore. They have no hope. What would you tell them?
Well, I mean, first off, it's good to acknowledge how you're feeling. Probably not telling the kid how you're feeling, but finding someone that you can trust and tell them, you know, hey, I'm really having struggles with this. I'm having doubts about this. I mean, there's a lot of wisdom in that. I mean, talking about it's one way to manage it and process it and move towards getting to a healthy spot. Mr. Rogers, one of my heroes, said that anything that's mentionable is manageable. And so the first thing I would tell that guy is, the lady, the foster parent, is, yeah, talk to somebody, find somebody that you can trust that's a safe person to talk to, and work through your feelings on this. Second thought would be exactly what you said. Foster care is intended to be a place where this kid can have stability until they're able to go to a permanent home. So ending a foster care placement is a pretty big emotional impact on a kid, and usually not a positive one. So if it's possible to salvage it and heal it and rebuild this placement so that it can last, like, that's worth working towards for the kids' sake. Some things that might be helpful are to think about whether this behavior makes sense in any particular context. And it probably does. Most behaviors make sense, at least within the context of the worldview of the person who's doing it. You know, the kid steals your car, doesn't make sense to you, but from the kid's point of view, you know, maybe that was a way to make things more fair or something. Doesn't mean that we want to condone the stealing of the car. Doesn't mean we should again. But I'm saying it makes it a little bit less scary, less unpredictable.
Right.
And that might be helpful. And then there's some behaviors that make sense because of what the kids have experienced. There's some behaviors that might make sense just because of the developmental stage that they're at. Some things that kids do, they do not because of abuse or trauma that they experience, but just because they're kids. You know, teenagers are going to be disrespectful generally, at least some of the time. whether or not they've been through foster care.
Right.
Just because they're going to assert the fact that they're growing up to become adults, and along the way, you got to figure out how to assert yourself without losing all your relationships, and that's part of the normal process for most teens.
I think I'm still doing that sometimes.
Sure. So of course a foster kid's going to do that too, and not everything a foster kid does is because they're a foster kid. Some of it's just because they're a kid. So anyway, if you're a foster parent and you're discouraged, that's okay. It's normal for abnormal things to happen. And talking to somebody like your social worker, a therapist, a pastor who gets it, or even a friend who's walked this road before, could help you figure out how to move forward.
Definitely. That's some awesome advice. I love it. Let's switch gears over to adoption at the movies. What tell us a little bit. I've looked at your website. It's if you haven't looked at this, if you're a family that has not looked at this website, it is for real. Like, Addison, you are not someone that is like, hey, I'm going to do a few reviews and we're looking at movies that are 10 years old and we're like, wow, wasn't that in the 70s? Is that my kids don't even... This is legit. This is movies that are out now that can help you with your family. So tell us, how did this start?
Well, when we moved to Missouri, we lived in California for the last 10 years. In 2012, we moved to Missouri for my wife's internship. And so I decided that I wanted to take that year to write a book. And so I thought, like, hey, I'm going to write a book about adoption in the movies. And it'll be this big book about how adoption shows up in movies and how families can use movies to talk to their kids about adoption. And what I found out is that it's really hard to attract an agent or a publisher to write a book. And so I started the website and decided that I would put the adoption movie reviews up there. And in doing that, I also got to interact with a lot of other really prominent adoption bloggers, which was great for me. I mean, when I started adoption as movies, I had been a foster care adoption social worker for 7 years, and I thought that I was pretty much an adoption expert. And within the first couple months of talking to like Shannon LCK or Lori Holden from LoudandCruise.com, Rebecca Hawks, Lori Dennis, and a few others, like I started to realize, wow, Amanda Woolston from the Declassified Adoptee. There's so much that I don't know about domestic infant adoption, about international adoption. So doing the website was really a blessing because it expanded me to like different forms of adoption and different experiences that people have had. So anyway, starting the website, the first review was The Outlife of Timothy Green, which came out right around then. Was really fortunate that a really bullseye relevant movie came out right around when I was starting the site. And it just started going from there. So now, about 3 years in, we've got about 200 movie reviews on the site. A lot of current movies that come out, especially kids' movies. But I'll also go back and try to hit the relevant ones that are older. The oldest one I've ever done was actually Shirley Temple and Curly Top, I think.
Really?
Which is definitely from a different era. And the most recent one, I just put up Hotel Transylvania too. It's actually a really good one.
Yeah, I looked up today and I saw Hotel Transylvania too, and that's been actually the first movie was an important milestone for our family because I think it was actually Hotel Transylvania was on its way out when we first moved to Knoxville, and so I remember that was a big. My family was in just a big time of transition, And so I remember actually sitting in the Dollar Theater with all of them. That was the first thing we did together as a family when we moved to Knoxville. So that first one holds a special place in my heart. Not that I even necessarily like the movie, to be honest, but it's the memories. What when you're going through a movie, how do you pick your movies? What's the criteria that you're looking for when you watch a movie? Tell us a little bit about your process.
Right now, mostly I pay attention to what are the movies that are going to be coming out soon. Like I keep a calendar of upcoming release dates, and I try to get a sense of what age group the movies are geared towards, and then taking a look at the plot, see if there's likely to be some family themes. Because movies about families are going to be relevant to adoptive families, because adoptive families are families, you know. And so some of the issues, there are some issues that are unique to adoption, but those aren't the only issues that an adoptive family deals with. You know, going back to teenagers, every parent has to deal with a teenager at some point or another. So, yeah, I mean, I try to see what movies look like they'd be family friendly, and then try to catch them and get the review out. And then older movies, I actually sat down with a bunch of my coworkers at one point and just kind of asked everybody to brainstorm what are some movies that adoption teams are in, and they came up with 100 or something.
That's insane.
So I put all this in my Netflix queue and worked on it slowly. Still working on it.
It's an amazing list you have online. How do you determine? I guess how when you look at the movie, how do you determine if this is a movie for foster families or this is a movie for adoption, or skip this one? Don't go see it.
Yeah, usually I'll watch a movie once and take notes while I'm watching it, and that's actually a skill that I kind of picked up while I was doing home studies. You know, you get used to making eye contact with people and listening intently to what they're saying and writing down things at the same time. And so that's really helpful. Sitting in a dark movie theater, watching it, and without looking, I can still write down my notes on it. And my handwriting's bad anyway, so it doesn't make it worse that much to do it that way. And then I'll sit down. I usually write the reviews in a specific order. Like I'll start by writing out the plot, and then I'll think about what themes might apply to adoptive families within the movie. And then I'll touch on like what are some great things that families could use as touch points. At the same time, what are some scenes that might be triggers for the kids, or is there anything that's really particularly unhelpful for adoptive families in this one? And then from there, I just kind of try to do some mental math and figure out, whether there's more good or more bad. And I'll still try to say, like, hey, this one's good, but you might want to watch out for this if this is an issue for your kids. This one's bad, but if you do watch it, here's some things that you still might be able to get out of it. Probably not a good choice for most people, but even if you do watch it, there's still something you can draw from it.
No, I really appreciate. Actually, I saw a lot of your reviews that you talk about the different triggers, and I know with our own children, there are we have some of the kiddos, we have some of the younger kiddos that they're a little bit more age behaviorally where they can handle a PG-13 movie and they're old enough to handle it. They got a good moral compass on them and they're fine. But we actually have some kiddos that are older than them. They can't. Like there are some things that have happened in their past that a movie's going to trigger some things. And it's not even, I think a lot of, when we talk PG-13 or R, a quick, immediately other parents think, oh, the sexual content. I'm like, no, even just, there's too much gore, or there's too much excitement, or there's, so I really appreciate that you and your, have the triggers that might be seen along the way in your movie reviews. That helps a lot, I feel. What are you hoping after a family reads your review? What are you hoping is the end goal? What are you trying to accomplish with all of this?
What I hope happens, two goals really. I mean, when I started the site, And the book that I wanted to write, that I'm eventually going to write, the goal was that families would be able to access hard to reach conversations about adoption issues using movies as a bridge. And so that's still my hope, is that families will, come to the site, read a review, and then go to the movie and be able to talk to their kids afterwards, like, hey, this character felt this way when their parents said this. Have you ever felt that way? And they're conversations that probably need to happen, that you just have no idea how to start. And I'm hoping that I'm able to get you away with that. That's what I intended, and that's what I still intend. But I found kind of a second goal along the way. Is a second use that families have for the site is trying to decide, hey, maybe my kids really want to see this one, but it sounds like it's got all these things that are going to trigger them. Maybe this would be a rougher one for us than I was expecting, so let's skip it. Or conversely, and I hope this happens more often, I'll find a movie that's just so great, that's got so much good stuff going on that maybe you wouldn't have seen, but now you're going to, because I found it and I turned on to it. Like the first one for me that comes to mind like that is this period piece called Belle that Fox put out a while ago. And it's a great story about well, I won't spoil it for you, but Belle, it's wonderful.
What year was that made? Do you remember?
I think that's 2014, might be 2013.
What do you think is, looking back over 2015, what is, wow, this is going to date this video now. Looking back over 2015, what is one of the best movies that you've seen this year that foster adoptive families need to see?
Inside Out. It's such an intelligent movie emotionally. It shows that sadness is a valuable emotion, and that, well, it shows the value of sadness and the place that sadness can have in a healthy life. And I think that's, the characters are bright and colorful and, probably make great stuffed animals, but they also give kids a real way to identify how they're feeling and to accept the way they're feeling, and talk about how they're feeling. And, if you can talk about it, you can process it, you can make it through, and you can move forward.
What do you think about, as we're looking in the future, 2016 or even the rest of 2015, what movies should we be watching for? Have you checked any of those out?
Well, one that I'm really excited for is, should be coming out early January, Kung Fu Panda 3.
Nice.
In the first Kung Fu Panda movie, and you might want to mute this for the next 20 seconds because it's probably going to have some spoilers if you haven't seen the first two, if you're listening. But the first Kung Fu Panda movie, there's this panda named Po who really wants to be, but he's a huge Kung Fu fan. And his father is a goose named Mr. Ping. And Mr. Ping runs a noodle shop, and he tells Po, hey, we're noodle folks, it runs through our blood. And at a couple points during the movie, it teases at the fact that Poe's adopted, but they never actually get around to talking about it. In the second movie, they have that conversation, and Mr. Ping gives Poe the story from the first time I saw you to the time, to present day, how you became my son. And it's so good. And so Kung Fu Panda 3 is now going to look at Poe's family, the pandas, and we're going to find out about them. So I'm excited for it. I don't know what's going to happen, but I think it could be a really interesting one.
No, I haven't seen the second one. We saw the first one. Oh, I know. It's epic fail on me. It's been a crazy last few years. But I actually saw a preview for the third one, and I'm like, that one's got to be seen. That one's on the list.
Yeah, it's going to be good. I'm excited for that one.
Hey, we're so far behind. I'm just excited that tomorrow Jurassic World comes out, and I want to see it. For no other reason, I just want to have some fun. So, yep. So as we've been talking, Addison, I'm kind of, the impression I'm getting from you is you're a very educated person. You're articulating yourself well, but not only do you have the smarts, I'm sensing a big heart there too. That you genuinely want to help people. You were even saying how you fell into things that someone explained social work to you as you help people. You have a heart for people, and you're well educated. You could be doing a lot of different things. Why movies with the site?
Well, when I first started working in foster care adoption back in 2006, I went to a training called the Adoption Clinical Training that was put on by Kinship Center in Southern California. And one of the presenters was named Cindy Rowe, and she talked some about how there's a few movies that have adoption themes, and I didn't do anything with that for years, but it's still stuck in my head, and I wanted to know like how adoption does show up in movies, and I saw a couple of the ones that she had mentioned, like White Oleander and Antoine Fisher. And so it was always in my head. Something that I wanted to do was to look more in depth at movies, and see how adoption shows up in them. And so when I found some time to do it, really just jumped into it and found it really enjoyable. Also, I really like watching movies, and I tend to be kind of driven. And not everybody will get this, but some people will. Sometimes it takes discipline to not be disciplined, and finding that balance between rest and work. And so doing the site seemed to be a good way to convince myself to watch some movies. So it's worked out well. And living in California is a great place to live for doing movie reviews. So I'm able to sometimes catch stuff before it comes out, and that gives me a little bit of advance time to get the writing done. So that's pretty sweet.
What do you see? What do you see happening with adoption at the movies in the next 5 years? Are there any plans in the works?
Yeah, I do expect it to come out in 2017, early 2017, and so I'm just about to start writing that. But we already know when it's coming out around the beginning of 2017. And otherwise, I'm excited to ramp up for the next Adoption of the Movies Awards. That's supposed to put out every February, right before the Academy Awards, to kind of honor the best movies, the best adopted families in film, the best adopted parents in film. So we've done two of those so far, and they've been really well received. This next year, I'm really looking forward to finding a really easy way for everybody to vote on it, so that so there's a really big voter turnout to the as a community, pick which films we want to honor. So that'll be February of 2016. I think it'll be fun.
And that's coming up.
That's coming up.
Okay, so I don't think I've asked this yet. What's your favorite movie of all time?
It's one that I haven't reviewed on the site yet, and I don't know if I will. The Princess Bride.
Nice.
Every line in that movie is the best line in the movie.
That's definitely a classic. I don't think you can go wrong there. Is there anything else that you want to tell people about the site or advice or anything like that? I'll open it up to you. Those are my questions.
Yeah, they were great questions, Darren. Just check out the site. I mean, I started it with the intention to help families have conversations about hard stuff in an easy and non-threatening way. And spending time together as a family watching movies is fun. There's no reason that the big conversations have to be unpleasant. They can be had in your living room with your face full of popcorn. So check out the site, fire up the Netflix.
Hey, and if you've stuck with us this long, and I think you have, it's you need to go check out the website. It is adoptionlcsw.com. And there's also a Facebook page that you can go and like. So be sure to follow and get social with Addison on Facebook, and check out his website at www.adoptionlcsw.com. It'll be one of the best things you do this year. So thank you so much, Addison, for making the time to talk with us. And I wouldn't mind chatting with you some more if you want to hang around after we stop broadcast here.
Yeah, that sounds great. Thank you, Darren. I had a lot of fun talking with you.
Thank you.